So cash flow, extremely important. Knowing about the appellations and the regions of the world that produce the best wine, that's also important.
Oh boy, yes it is. So last week, we're looking at sub-appellations. We are in California again this week. I know I mentioned...
Man, I wish.
Well, you know what I mean.
At least in Napa Valley, I wish.
Just pretend.
I don't want to be in Southern California, but...
I'll be anywhere. That sounds anywhere on vacation. I think everyone's ready to go vacation. I was talking to a client yesterday and we were looking at her cash flow, shocker, but part of her cash flow, there's a travel piece to it. And she obviously didn't spend any. So she warned me. She said, girl, when I can travel, just be prepared because I'm going somewhere. So maybe she will go to one of the districts that we're talking about, or the AVAs that we're speaking about today in California.
So many people that are ready to travel. And
there really are.
You know, California wouldn't be a bad place. Some parts of California, I would tell you right now, they're in such turmoil, who knows? But I can tell you that Napa Valley and all of the valleys and all of the AVAs in California, man, what a great place to have a vacation and enjoy some delicious food and wine.
Amen.
Yeah.
So we'll stay in California. We'll cover two more popular. These might be more higher end as well, actually.
Yeah, I think so.
These are going to be higher end. So we will cover California again today, and then we're going to start branching out into other parts of the U.S. We'll go into other parts of the world, but we'll have this series that covers the sub-appellations, maybe some you haven't heard of, maybe some that you have tried a million times and you don't know why their wine tastes so good to you, but we'll cover that. Today.
That's a great point.
Actually.
Yeah. Some people have no idea that it's because of where it comes from.
Definitely.
But it truly, boy, it makes a difference. No question.
Yep. So first we're going to be traveling, I keep saying that, to Stag's Leap.
All right. Stag's Leap.
Which...
Didn't we do a show about, or didn't we have Stag's Leap Winery?
Yes.
And Stag's Leap Vineyards on our show?
Yes, which confuses people to no end. So Stag's Leap, the AVA, is a particular space, so to speak, particular climate, soil. It's its own AVA, but within that AVA, those vineyards love to use that stag on their label. Confuses people all the time, right?
Stag's Leap Winery, Stag's Leap Vineyards are two of the oldest. And gosh, they had to go to court because their names were so similar. Their labeling was similar. The stag was similar. And gosh, that's just two of them. But there's some great wineries, regardless of how they have to quibble and quarrel about who uses the stag. I can sure tell you this. They make some great wine in Stag's Leap.
Amen. And everyone, always wonders, where did that name come from? And it's a WAPO, and I hope that I'm pronouncing that correctly. WAPO legend of a stag that basically eluded hunters for many years. Coming from the South, there's always that deer that everyone wants to kill. They've seen the 8-point big boy or the 12-point, whatever it is. Basically, this is a stag out in California in this little region that eluded hunters. There's a legend that it leapt from the rocks to its own death rather than be killed by a hunter. There's one that says that it lived to old age because it was constantly, avoiding being killed. Regardless, this whole region is named after that sweet little stag that just eluded everyone.
As a result, what an AVA, so popular around the world. People know Stag's Leap. Just going to name a few of the great vineyards that come out of Stag's Leap. So we already said Stag's Leap Winery, Stag's Leap Vineyard, but you have places like Stelzner, you have Pine Ridge, been around forever. Schaefer Vineyards, talk about high end. Now Schaefer, one of my favorites, they have everything from basic Cabernets, basic wines at a lower price point. You can pick them up for $25, $30. And they go all the way to their premium cuvee, which is their Hillside Select.
Oh boy.
And that's a collector's wine. And here's what's interesting. It is pretty well mass produced, yet it somehow manages to get extremely high ratings and followings every year. The wine sells out. It's highly allocated. they never have to worry about selling out of that wine because so many collectors want it. Great wine. A winery out there called Raguski
Yes.
is one of my favorites. And in fact, I know in my wine collection, I'm down to one of their bottles, and it's somewhat of an old world, new world mix.
Somewhat of an old world.
Man.
This was the Occidental Winery in 1878. That's one of in the history, that's the first one that they claim, the actual winery.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is old school, so that's
Totally.
probably why.
Yeah, for sure. But it's so good. It's so big, so bold. Griffin Vineyards is there. Cliff Leday. That might be one of my favorites for a go-to. Cliff Leday, it's spelled C-L-I-F-F and then L-E-D-E, Cliff Leday. The first time I tried this wine, my wife and I were having dinner with a friend, and apparently he didn't know how to pronounce this wine. And so I love telling stories, and I'm going to bore you with this one for just a minute. But we came over, or we went to his home one evening for dinner. This was many years ago.
Oh, no.
And so I was going to cook, and he said, I'll provide the wine. And so we show up at his house, and we had never been. And his house was very small. The kitchen was very small. I felt like I was working. I really felt like I was working in a closet.
Or in a restaurant kitchen. Sometimes those are like little closets.
Yeah, they can be really
hot,
small.
Yeah.
That's exactly what this felt like. And he said, I've got this great wine. And he called it Chris Lead. And we finally looked at the label and we realized it was Cliff Leday. But all evening, Natalie and I were trying to figure out what is this Chris Lead?
You're like, what kind of garbage did he bring to this dinner?
For years, when
Yeah.
we're in a store and we see Cliff Leday, we have the biggest laugh about Chris Lead. But I got to tell you, no matter how we were turned on to that wine, it's still a favorite. They make some delicious Cabernets. So,
I was about to say, I'm sure it's Cabernet because, so this is a pretty small area. It's 1,200 acres planted, and 80% of that is going to be Cabernet.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty high number of vines to just dedicate towards Cabernet.
Oh, you're talking about a really small area, but Cabernet is so prominent in that area. And the next one that we're going to talk about, which is St. Helena.
Oh, yeah.
Another big Cabernet producer, and they're real close to one another, but these people produce incredible cabs, collectible wines, and they're just magnificent. There's just no question about it.
Oh, yeah. It's another very old, well, it became an AVA in 1995, but all of these lands have had vineyards on them forever. I want to say this one.
You go back to the 1800s with Stag's Leap.
Oh, yeah, this one too. 1840, General Viejo gifted land to someone. And I believe his name, I have it written down because I can't remember it. Blanc?
That could be right.
Yep.
Yeah,
Edward Bell,
right.
Excuse me, Bell.
So, Edward Bell, yeah.
Yep.
Of course.
So he and his wife planted the first vines there, and they're still around today.
How about that?
I mean,
Truly old vines.
Truly old vines.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a very deep history. I know both of these or the whole region suffered during Prohibition, but it's made such a comeback.
You know, St. Helena is an incredible place, and it's small, just like Stag's Leap. You're talking about 5 square miles. So this is not a big area, but the amount of area to the greatness in wine, I don't really know how you measure that ratio, or if you could even build a ratio like that, but I can tell you it'd be off the chart.
Yeah.
St. Helena makes some incredible stuff. There's places like, Charles Krug, Beringer, one of my favorites. And people say, Beringer, well, isn't that cheap wine? Beringer makes Private Reserve and other high-end wines. And let me tell you, don't underestimate a Beringer. They make some great stuff, but some really, really good wines in St. Helena and Stag's Leap. But St. Helena, gosh, you just can't say enough about it for such a small area. They put out some really, really good juice, and you can buy some pretty expensive stuff out of St. Helena.
Absolutely. And they boast, obviously, they have the extreme temperature. So during the day, about 90, 95, it can drop to the 40s at night, which produces this wonderful balance of acidity and tannins.
Yeah.
That's what they're known for. Rombauer is another winery there. I know Phil likes that.
Yeah.
Beck Stoffers is there. This place
So,
is.
so Beckstoffer,
Mhm.
let's stop right there.
All right, we'll
So
stop there.
Sarah's about to end the show right here. Beckstoffer, you're
Do you
going to
have a
spend.
microphone?
I mean, that's a mic drop. When you talk about Beckstoffer, that might be some of the most sacred ground in all of Napa Valley. It
Dr.
is
Crane. Yep.
unbelievable. And so when you hear the word Beckstoffer, a couple of things to know. If you want to splurge, look for Beckstoffer.
Yeah.
But be sure that what you're getting is truly Beckstoffer fruit. There's a lot of things going on out there that I think is a little fishy, but be sure it's Beckstoffer fruit. If it is, you are in for a real treat. Now, there's lots of acreage in the Beckstoffer area, but that's a plot of land. That's vineyards that, man, I've just never tasted anything quite like it. And their most prized is called Beckstoffer to Calan. And I won't go into why it was named that. It's a great story. We'll talk about it on another show. But Beckstoffer to Calan might be some of the most expensive fruit.
Mhm.
Killer wine. Anytime I can get it. But I want to mention one other thing that's in St. Helena. And that's the Culinary Institute of America.
Ooh, boy.
The Napa Valley version of Culinary Institute, or that part of the Culinary Institute of America called Culinary Institute of America at Greystone. And it sits there in Napa Valley. Beautiful, beautiful place. And I've been there one time, and it is just an amazing facility. So killer stuff out in St. Helena and Stag's Leap. You really want to treat yourself to some great wines.
Cabernet too.
Oh,
I would say
yeah,
if you love
for sure.
Cabernet, that is an easy go-to.
Oh, 100%. If you love Cab, you got to try St. Helena Stag's Leap. Get some Behringer, try a bottle of Stag's Leap, either one, Stag's Leap Vineyards or Stag's Leap Winery.
Mm-hmm.
Give it a shot. You're going to love it. And we'll have a new set of AVAs to talk about next week. And I think you said we're going to leave California.
We're going to leave California. You know, California is vogue right now.
Yeah.
There's so many places that produce such fantastic wine, though. We would do you a disservice if we just hung out in California.
Listen, we're at the top of the hour. It's time to end another show. As always, we have a great time doing this. We hope that we have educated you in some way. Maybe we've given you a little bit of information that you can use in your life. And if not, maybe in someone that you know in their life, you can help them. If you need some additional assistance with these kinds of things, please look us up. Check out our website, read more about the things we talk about, and tune in next week for another edition of We're Talking Money Live. Sarah?
Have a great week. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining us on We're Talking Money. Be sure to visit us at omnistarfinancial.com, where you can learn more about how we provide value to our clients. Subscribe to the show and our newsletters, and drop us a line with topic suggestions for upcoming shows. If you enjoyed the show, we would appreciate you passing it on to a friend and providing a rating on iTunes. This podcast is a publication of OmniStar Financial Group. The content is developed from sources believed to be reliable and accurate with all information. The information in this material is not intended as tax or legal advice and may not be used for the purpose of avoiding any federal tax penalties. Please consult legal or tax professionals for specific information regarding your individual situation. The opinions expressed and material provided are for general information and should not be considered a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security or service provided by OmniStar. All expressions of opinion reflect that of the authors and are subject to change. Any distribution, use, or copying of this podcast, other than the intended recipients, is prohibited.